What's going on, everybody? It's DIlla926 here, and the video is finally here, the prediction video for the New York Giants 2020 NFL season. Alright, I know I've been talking about it for a while, and I finally put this thing together, so here it goes. Alright, so we're starting off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. In our first game of the year, we face the Steelers. At home, I believe that's going to be a loss for us, man. I mean, the Steelers are bringing too much firepower to the table, I believe, for our defense to even begin to handle. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, especially starting off with our first game of the season. But, I mean, you talk about guys like, Juju, Diontae Johnson, who I really think is going to take a big-time step up in his second year. I think he's a guy to watch. I mean, he's going to be, I think, one of the premier wide receivers in this league in the next couple of seasons. So definitely keep an eye out for that guy. I just think the Giants are going to have a very hard time stopping him. I mean, I'm guessing that Bradbury is going to be on Juju, and then our second corner will be on Diontae Johnson. And I think that guy is going to have his hands full if he has to cover Diontae Johnson the whole entire game. Or in any kind of zone situations, he's going to be a handful to cover, I'm telling you. Because Diontae Johnson, he's an absolute beast, man. He gets the ball in his hands, and he is scary, man. That guy, ugh. Yeah, just go watch some of his highlight films, and I mean, you'll see all you need to see when it comes to Diontae Johnson. And then you talk about guys that they drafted, like Chase Claypool, big target guy that can score in the red zone. He's going to be like a tight end type, player for that team, even though he plays wide receiver. But, he's going to be a big time threat in the red zone, and it's somebody that Ben can throw the ball up to. But with the Steelers, I think it comes down to just basically Ben coming back healthy this year and seeing what he brings to the table. If he comes back healthy and has a good season, I really do think the Steelers could be a possible sleeper Super Bowl team. I mean, you think about how good that defense is and what that team did last year on the defensive side of the ball, along with these other options that they have on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, they drafted Anthony McFarland, the running back out of Maryland, to go along with James Conner. I mean, that's a deadly 1-2 punch right there. Because McFarland's got all the speed in the world, man. He can take it to the house from just about anywhere. So having him with James Conner, that's a pretty good little combination they've got. And then James Washington, he's a deep threat, man. I mean, basically he's a guy they just tell to run straight, and they're going to throw it down the field as far as they can and see if he comes down with it. So, and they also added Eric Ebron, so don't forget that he's there. So I mean, they got a lot of options on that team. I think the Giants are going to have a very hard time stopping that offense. And then offensively in the first game of the year, I think they're just going to have a tough time getting something going against that defense. So we're going to start off the season 0-1. All right, so we move on to game number 2. We're going to face the Chicago Bears. I don't have whether these games are home games or away games. So I think this is an away game against the Bears. But I believe we come away with a victory in that game. I'm not a big believer in Nick Foles. Trubisky, I mean, honestly, right now, I don't know who the starting quarterback's going to be. I'm assuming that it's going to be Nick Foles, but either one of those quarterbacks, I just don't have any faith in, and I just don't think they're bringing much to the table when it comes to leading it in NFL offense. I just don't. I don't have any kind of belief in either one of them. But I mean that offensively, they're bringing some guys to the table. I mean, they got Allen Robinson, they got David Montgomery, they've got Anthony Miller, and they drafted that tight end, I believe, from Notre Dame, Cole Kmet. So I mean, they've got some options on the offensive side of the ball. But I mean, I think the Giants, that defense, they've got Khalil Mack, and they've got a few other pieces there on that defensive side of the ball. But I mean, honestly, I think the Giants have enough firepower on offense to actually get it done against them, and then stop them on offense to take the victory from the Chicago Bears. I think the Giants can get that one done. So we start off the season 1-1, and then we play the San Francisco 49ers. Good defensive team. I think that's basically what it's going to come down to. Is San Francisco is going to play better defense than us, and we're going to have trouble moving the ball against them. It's just there's going to be too much to handle on that side of the ball. I mean, offensively, they've got a couple players here and there. They've got George Kittle. They've got Deebo Samuel, who's probably going to start the season on the PUP list. I don't know. Will he be back in time for that game? That's the third game of the year. I don't know. Possibly. That could be his first game back. But they also drafted Brandon Ayuk, who could be an outside threat for them. So, and then, of course, you know, they got Raheem Mostert, and then they have, what's his name? Coleman. You know, two running backs that Kyle Shanahan's definitely going to lean on. But, you know, Mostert's probably going to be the guy that gets the work for the most part in that offense. But, I mean, it's a Kyle Shanahan-led offense. You know, Garoppolo, you never know what you're going to get with him. He could have a good game, he could have a bad game. If he has a bad game, the Giants honestly could stand a chance in this game, believe it or not. But we'll see what happens. But I think San Francisco is going to take that game, and the Giants, after 3 games, will be 1-2 starting the season. And then we move on and then play the Los Angeles Rams. And I believe we get a victory in that game also. So we start the season off 2-2 after 4 games. You know, I just don't have much faith in the Rams. You know, Jared Goff, that offensive line in front of them, it's really kind of deteriorated over the years. And I don't think Goff performs very well under pressure. And I mean, he's still got weapons out there. He's got Cooper Kupp. You know, he's got, you know, they just drafted Cam Akers. Gurley is gone, of course. Robert Woods is still there. You're going to see a lot of tight end sets. 2 tight end sets. You're going to see a lot of Tyler Higbee, and you're going to see a lot of Jared Everett. Those 2 are going to be used a lot. I mean, if you watch Tyler Higbee at the end of the season with the Rams last year, he was used heavily in that offense. So, I mean, they're definitely going to rely on those 2, especially after, you know, the loss of Gurley. And it may take a little time for Cam Akers to step up in that offense and become the running back that he can. But, I mean, I think Cam will be a pretty good running back. But, yeah, I think the Giants can score enough points, and I don't have as much faith in that Rams defense. Like, they're not as good as they once were, like a couple years back. I mean, that defense is definitely kind of falling apart and taking a step back. Of course, Aaron Donald's still there and everything, and you know, Ramsey's there on the outside. But I think the Giants can do enough to take a win in that game against the Los Angeles Rams. So we will start off this. We will be 2-2 after 4 games, and then we'll move on and play the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, who I honestly believe will be the winners of the NFC East this season. I don't think Philly stands a chance to even win the division. I think it's either between Dallas and Philly, but, well, I'm not going to say that because you'll understand why down the road in this video. But yeah, I think Dallas is the cream of the crop when it comes to this division. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts. Yeah, they lost some pieces on the defensive side of the ball, but offensively, who's going to mess with Dallas in the NFC East? Nobody. I mean, especially after they acquired CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup. I mean, those 3 are going to be a handful. And then Blake Jarwin playing tight end. I mean, Blake Jarwin has killed us in the past. So, I mean, we know all about some Blake Jarwin. He's kind of like Jason Witten Jr. when it comes to playing the New York Giants. So, yeah, Dallas is going to beat us the first time we play them. So, we'll be 2-3 at that point after 5 games. Give me a second here. Got to take a little bit of a break. All right, so then we move on and play the Washington Redskins. The Washington, I'm not too sure what they're going to be called. Could be the Red Tails, could be the Warriors. There's a guy that has all the naming rights, I believe. It's one single person. He's probably got like 5 different names that he has reserved. And I think he's a Redskins fan. He's been a Redskins fan for a long time, and he actually reserved all the naming rights that he heard the team was actually interested in, just so nobody else bought them and like drove up the price on the name for Snyder to actually purchase and give to the new Washington, well, the new name for the Washington Redskins. So that's the whole story behind that. I don't know exactly when the name is going to be, you know, finalized and when all that stuff's going to go through, but it should be here soon. But yeah, we play the Redskins. You know, it's going to be tough. I mean, it's a divisional opponent. It's the Redskins. I believe we come away with the victory. I think Daniel Jones comes out and has a good game against that defense. As long as we keep Chase and we keep control of Chase and Montez Sweat. Chase Young and Montez Sweat together, that is going to be a hell of a tandem. And Ryan Kerrigan, I'm not too sure what's going on with Ryan Kerrigan, but he's still there. So remember, they have Chase Young, Ryan Kerrigan if he's still there, and then they have Montez Sweat coming off the other side. So those are three nasty defensive ends. They've got like an old school New York Giants defense kind of, they've got slowly brewing together down there in Washington. So, I mean, that defense is definitely one you need to watch out for in the future. They're putting pieces together, and that team, if Dwayne Haskins can somehow put it together, which I don't think he will in the future, and become a decent quarterback, I mean, that team could be on to something. But, I mean, they still have a lot of work. They drafted a running back, what is it, Antonio Gibson, I think. That guy plays all over the field. He's a former wide receiver, converted into a running back. And they're going to use him a lot of different ways, I would assume, because they don't have very many options outside of Terry McLaurin, all that offense. So they're definitely going to need somebody to step up on the outside. And as far as the running game goes, they got APs there, and then Darius Geis, who can be, even with all of his injuries, Darius Geis could be a very good running back, but the man just cannot stay healthy. Plain and simple. And it's a shame because, I mean, there was a lot of people that were looking forward to Darius Geis getting to the NFL. And actually, everybody wanted to see what he could do. And then he's just had, injury issue after injury issue after injury issue every single year. So, it's been a troubling start for Darius Geis. But I think the Giants have enough on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Darius Slayton, I believe he'll step up and have a big game in that one. Golden Tate, I mean, the usual suspects, Sterling Shepard. I'm sure Saquon will probably torch the Redskins just like he did last year. But yeah, I mean, it's the Redskins. We always beat up on the Redskins for the most part, even with the additions that they made in this year's past draft. I still think we're just a better team than the Redskins. I think the Redskins are the worst team in the division, hands down, bar none. It's not even close. So that's a win for us. So at this point, we are 3-3. So, we play the Philadelphia Eagles for the first time. And I know a lot of Giants fans are going to be happy to hear this, but I honestly believe the New York Giants are going to sweep. That's right. I believe we are going to sweep the Philadelphia Eagles this year. And what a sight it would be to behold if we actually were able to get that to happen. Because, I mean, Philly, we have just been a doormat for the Philadelphia Eagles for, I mean, God only knows how many seasons. So, I mean, if we could turn around and actually break out the broom on them this year, I mean, it would be awesome to actually see if that took place. But I honestly do believe it. I don't think Philly has much. I think the one thing that this Giants defense does well is it stops the run. And if we stop Miles Sanders and what's the other guy's name that killed us last year? What's his name? The little small guy, the running back, was Boston Scott? Yeah, we got to contain Boston Scott again this year. I mean, definitely. We can't let him torch us like he did last year. So if we stop those two in the running game, they don't have really much else on the outside. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey, he's going to start the season on the PUP. So nobody knows when he's coming back. He would be eligible for the 6th game of the year, or the 7th game of the year, I believe, if you're on PUP. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he could possibly be back in that game. I don't know. But, yeah, they drafted Jalen Reagor. I don't know what to think about Jalen Reagor. I mean, he's a small guy. He's got a lot of speed. I mean, he could do damage down the field, but I think I honestly think the guy's going to get hurt a ton. But I don't know. I mean, the Eagles are putting a lot of faith into Jalen Reagor. A lot of their fan base, that team, just the whole shebang, man. They just think Jalen Reagor is going to be their next Deshaun Jackson, and I don't see that happening. I could be wrong, but I don't think much of the kid. I think they waited too long to draft a wide receiver, and that's just my personal opinion. And I believe a lot of people in the NFL circle and just the fan bases, they all probably feel the same way. But yeah, I think we're taking that one, taking the first game against the Eagles, and like I said, I think we're taking the second game against the Eagles because I don't think the Eagles are much this year. I really don't. And if Carson Wentz gets hurt, they're done for. They're done for. I mean, like I said, we stopped Miles Sanders, we stopped, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. I mean, those two are going to be the two that we definitely have to shut down. If we shut down Goddard and Ertz, we have a very good chance of beating that team. And like I said, shutting down Miles Sanders. Now, that's a tall task to stop all three of them. But I do believe that the Giants can get it done. And that offensively, I don't think Philly's defense is much. I really don't. I don't care what anybody says about that defense. Their secondary, to me, is still suspect as hell. They brought in Darius Slay, this, that, and the other. I don't care about Darius Slay. Whatever. Good for them. That defense it's nothing. It's not anything that you really need to worry about. I think we have enough offensively to take it to the Philadelphia Eagles twice this year, and I confidently say that. All right, so after the Eagles game, we move on to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Mr. Tom Brady in the NFC. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Keyshawn Vaughn, the newly drafted running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And who's the other running back that they have? I always draw a blank on this guy. The guy that was there the past 2 seasons really hasn't amounted to much. Came from USC. I can't think of his name. It really doesn't matter. He doesn't do anything anyways. But Keyshawn Vaughn will probably be the leading back in that backfield. He's the guy that catches that can actually catch the ball, can run the ball in between the tackles. I mean, he's going to be their go-to running back. He's good in pass protection. That's who Brady's probably going to want in the backfield, I would assume. So, yeah, us going against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. I don't really know what to think about Tampa Bay yet. But if they're hitting on all cylinders and Brady, it seems like he's in tune with those 2 wide receivers and Gronk and O.J. Howard, I mean, that offense obviously could be one to reckon with, and it would be a tall task for the New York Giants to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in my personal opinion. And, defensively, Tampa kind of stepped it up a little bit towards the end. You got Shaq Barrett there, even though Daniel Jones carved him up last year. And, I mean, there's a chance that he could possibly do it again this year, but I just think that defense has gotten a little bit better, and obviously with the addition of Brady and then the offensive pieces that they added along with Gronk, even though Gronk's been away from the game for 2 years, I still think he can definitely be a productive player for that team, especially playing with Brady. So that to me is probably going to be a loss. So that will be 4. We will then be 4-4 at that point in time. So after 8 games, we're sitting at 500. And we play the Redskins again. Once again, we beat the Redskins. I believe we're sweeping the Redskins. We're sweeping the Eagles. I think we're only losing 1 division game this year. Believe it or not, just 1. Now, is this actually going to happen? I don't know. I mean, this is just kind of what I'm going with. I've just got a hunch that we're going 5-1 in the division this year. I could be right. I could be wrong. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, we're beating the Redskins. We're moving to 5-4. 5-4. Halfway through the season. Man, we hadn't seen a 5-4 record in a long time, have we? Hopefully this is the way it works out. But don't get your hopes up. It's going to get worse. All right. So, we went over the Redskins game. Move on to the Eagles. Like I said, I don't think much about the Eagles. I think they're all hype. Carson Wentz can't stay healthy. Don't have very many options on the outside, depending on Jalen Reagor. It's not going to work out for him. I just don't believe it's going to work out for him, especially when the dude's a rookie. He shut down the 2 tight ends, Miles Sanders. That's it. Giants will get that done, hopefully. Offense will get enough done, and we'll pull out another victory and sweep the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this is where it really starts to get shaky with us. Now, I know this is the Cincinnati Bengals. I know the Cincinnati Bengals have a defense that is probably up to par with ours. I mean, it's that bad. But definitely the Giants' defense is better than the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati's defense is so damn bad. It's almost amusing. But with the addition of Joe Burrow at quarterback and a healthy A.J. Green, if A.J. Green comes back and he is 75% of what he used to be, or 80%, whatever. You know, I just, Joe Burrow, I think Joe Burrow is going to excel in Cincinnati. He's got a ton of weapons out there. You know, they brought in Higgins from Clemson to take over A.J. Green's spot eventually. Now, they're talking about signing A.J. Green to a long-term deal, but I just don't understand why they would do that when A.J. Green is 31 years old, and you don't even know what he's got left in the tank after a year and a half or 2 years worth of absence from the NFL. But I mean, A.J. Green is a freak of nature, man. He's in that Julio Jones type of mold. If anybody can come back and be close to what they were, I mean, being away from football for 2 years, it's probably A.J. Green. But, I mean, A.J.'s not the only person that's there. They got Tyler Boyd. You know, they got Joe Mixon coming out of the backfield. And Joe Mixon is extremely underrated. If you have not watched Joe Mixon play football, you haven't had a chance to watch him very much play football in the NFL, this guy is one of the best running backs in the NFL. And I think the New York Giants will find out when they play the Cincinnati Bengals just how good Joe Mixon actually is. Even though we do play pretty good run defense. But when you have this many options on the outside, it's going to be tough to stop a guy like Joe Mixon in the running game. And then you talk about a guy like John Ross, another guy that can't stay healthy, much like, you know, A.J. Green. But if he's healthy for this game, he's a guy that can stretch the field, and he can burn you for a 75, 80-yard touchdown at any point in time. He's blazing speed. You know all about his combine time. This, that, and the other. I mean, John Ross, he can fly. But yeah, surprisingly, I think Joe Burrow gets it done against us. I mean, how many games is that into the year? That's 10 games into the year. I think Joe Burrow, after 10 games, he kind of gets it together. He gets it together with that Cincinnati those offensive weapons that Cincinnati has. And he really starts to gel with them. And by the time he plays the Giants in the 10th game of the season, I think Cincinnati could definitely be an offense to be reckoned with at that point in time when we get a chance to play them. Now, the Giants are going to score some points in this game. This is going to be a knock 'em out, drag 'em out shootout. Much like the Saints game was like 3 or 4 years ago when Eli and Drew Brees went at it in the Superdome. I think this game is going to be just like that. But I mean, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think Cincinnati's going to pull that one out. As much as I hate to say it, I mean, that's going to be the one we look back on and we're going to be like, damn, we lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. But I can see it happening. And Joe Burrow, he can run, man. He's not a guy who's just going to sit back there in the pocket. If you give him a lane, he's going to take off and run. And facing him is the start of facing 3 straight running backs that can, 3 straight running backs, 3 straight quarterbacks that can actually run and get it done on the ground. So like I said, we lose to the Bengals. We move to 6-5. Then we move on and play the Seattle Seahawks. You know, what do I need to say about the Seattle Seahawks? You got to face one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and Russell Wilson. You got DK Metcalf. You got Tyler Lockett. You got Chris Carson coming out of the backfield, who is a horse, as long as he's healthy. But yeah, DK Metcalf coming into his second year. I mean, you saw what he did last year. Big body wide receiver, a guy that you can just throw the ball up to and he goes up and gets it. I mean, he's going to be one to reckon with for a long period of time in the NFL. And then, you know, Tyler Lockett just kind of comes out of nowhere and makes a big play with Russell Wilson at quarterback. I mean, it seems like every single game. I mean, he could go an entire game without doing anything, and all of a sudden Tyler Lockett just catches a bomb out of nowhere. So, yeah, I mean, the Seahawks they're a complete team. You know, the Giants were not a complete team. I think we have a good offensive cast of players that are young and slowly coming together, but we're not on par with the Seattle Seahawks, and I don't think we're going to come away with a victory in that game. I just don't think we have a good enough team to play with them. So at that point, we move to 6-6, and then we play the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, his new target out there in Arizona. Kenyon Drake coming out of the backfield. You got Christian Kirk is still there. I don't know what to make of Christian Kirk. Had high hopes for Christian Kirk last year. Christian Kirk did not step up and really kind of took a step back from what he did his rookie season with the Arizona Cardinals. But Larry Fitz is still there. You know, Fitz can still get it done. He's not going to be as consistent as he once was, but I mean, he's still a good go-to wide receiver, and he makes the catches when you need him to. And then, you know, a guy they drafted last year, Kareem Butler. I mean, this is, what? This is 13 games into the season. Kareem Butler, after 13 games, he may start to get a little bit of a niche for the NFL. And he may start to become the wide receiver that a lot of people thought he would when he came out of, where'd he come out of? Kareem Butler came out of, what was it? God dang. I can't think of it right now. It might have been Arizona State, maybe. I can't really recall where he came from. But another big body wide receiver. And if he comes out and starts doing something with DeAndre Hopkins, watch out, man. Because Kyler Murray is going to have two great outside targets to throw the ball to for many, well, not many years to come. Because DeAndre Hopkins, he's 28. But Kareem Butler, man, Kareem Butler's got a lot of ability. Kareem Butler reminds me a lot of A.J. Green. But he's not as fast as A.J. Green. But he's tall, he's lanky. You know, he goes up, catches the ball. I mean, he's got a great catch radius. I mean, the guy, he was drafted in the 3rd round. But he's a guy you better watch out for. And if he's hitting on all cylinders, or starting to hit on all cylinders when we play the Arizona Cardinals, watch out. That game could be extremely tough for us. And then after Kenyon Drake, you know, they got Chase Edmonds coming out of the backfield. And then they drafted another running back in the 7th round in this past draft, Eno Benjamin. He's a guy, man, he kind of reminds me of Ahmad Bradshaw. You go watch some Eno Benjamin film. Man, he runs hard. This guy, he can juke the hell out of people, man. And if you're in front of him, he's going to try to run right through you, just like Bradshaw used to do on 2 broken ankles. Because you know how Bradshaw used to have, you know, just ankle injuries all the time, but he still go out there and just truck the hell out of people every single game. You know, he was a monster. And this guy Eno Benjamin, he reminds me a lot of Bradshaw. So, I mean, I don't know if we'll get a chance to see him in that game, but maybe he makes a name for himself throughout the season and you know, the Giants end up seeing him. But I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a tough game. You know, the Cardinals, they run a high-paced offense. Giants should be on the field a lot. That could be another high-scoring game. Arizona's got a bad defense. That game, I think, is going to be very similar to the Cincinnati Bengals game, and it's going to be another shootout. But I think the Cardinals come out on top in that game, as much as I hate to say it, because the Giants just have trouble stopping running quarterbacks. I mean, we have for years. It's always been a difficult thing for us to stop. And after facing, you know, Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, and then having to face Kyler Murray in the 3rd game, I mean, it's going to be a task that's going to be very tough for this defense to actually, you know, have good results in. I mean, it's a difficult task to stop 3 running quarterbacks like that in 3 consecutive games. I just don't see the Giants being able to do it. And that's going to be 3 straight losses for us. So, I mean, that's really going to be the stretch that kills this team as far as possibly having any playoff hopes. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying that this team really has any chance to make the playoffs, but basically the way I have this broken down, up until the Eagles game, you know, after I said we beat the Eagles and then we play Cincinnati, we go on this losing streak of 3 games, which I believe is going to happen. And then we play the Cleveland Browns in week number, 15? Yeah, week number 15. And that game right there is a toss-up. Now, prior to this, we're 6-7. Okay? So we play the Cleveland Browns. This game, I don't know which way to go with this game. Now, this could be the difference in us finishing 7-9 and us finishing 8-8, which I do believe we're going to finish as 8-8. I think that's going to be our final record at the end of the season. But like I said, I'm not too sure which way to go on this game. It's a tough game to pick. If we come out and we shut down Odell early, we frustrate him, we frustrate Baker. You know, Jarvis, I don't know what Jarvis. I don't know. I mean, Jarvis is just a guy that catches the ball for 5-10 yards a catch. I mean, that's all he is, man. He'll hit you for a 15 to 20 yarder every once in a while, but Jarvis Landry, he doesn't scare me, man. He just doesn't. He's an extremely tough guy. he's a sure-handed wide receiver, but Jarvis is not putting any fear in my heart as a New York Giants fan. I'm sorry. But off-season addition, Austin Hooper, if he can get on the same page as Baker Mayfield, he could possibly have the same success that he had out there in Atlanta with Matt Ryan with Baker Mayfield. And if they get that going and Odell gets going early, and then you got Nick Chubb and you have Kareem Hunt coming out of the backfield, which I think you're going to see a lot of Kareem Hunt this year along with Nick Chubb. I think they're going to run those two into the ground, which they probably should, because I mean those are two hell of running backs right there. And another guy not to forget about on this team is Donovan Peoples-Jones. He was a late draft pick for the Cleveland Browns this past year. Went to Michigan, made a lot of plays out there in Michigan, and he's a guy that could definitely be a contributor for this team. We'll see how he steps up for the Cleveland Browns as the season goes on, and if he's a factor when we get to play the Cleveland Browns. But yeah, I think, like I said, if we shut down Odell, we get the Baker, frustrate those two, deal with Jarvis and shut down the running game, man, the Giants can come away with a victory in this game. And I do believe we will. And I think we'll be 7-7 at that point with a win against the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Baltimore Ravens, do I even really need to go over this game? I'll just take a sip of my drink and I'll move on to the Cowboys game. All right, so we lost to the Ravens. We're 7-8. Do we still have a chance for the playoffs going against the Dallas Cowboys in the final game of the season? I'm not too sure. Maybe we do. At that point, like I said, Dallas is the cream of the crop of the division. I don't think they're going to be playing for much in the last game of the year. Dak could be sitting. Zeke could be sitting. CeeDee Lamb being a rookie, he might be out there playing. I don't know. Michael Gallup, I'm assuming he'd probably be out there. Amari Cooper could have some kind of nagging injury going into that week like he always does, and they could just end up sitting him just for the playoffs. But, if they sit those guys if the Giants are bidding for a playoff spot, I don't know if Jerry would sit those guys. Regardless of the lead that the Cowboys have in the division, I don't know if Jerry would sit them or not, just because he would want to knock us out of contention for the playoffs if we were even in contention for a playoff spot. I mean, Jerry would just want to stick it to us. So